And that guy is Joe.
Hey, I think he's talking about me.
Yes. So, how are you doing, Mr. Snowman?
It was a difficult Sunday for sure. There was about 12 inches in the, as we talked about last time, Chicagoland area.
Yes.
So
Greater
I'm very
Chicagoland area?
the greater
Or
Chicagoland area.
is there a lesser Chicagoland area? No. We're in the greater Chicagoland area.
Yes, the greater Chicagoland area. So I am fortunate that I live in an apartment where most of my shoveling, plowing, whatever is taken care of pretty quickly.
Right.
My in-laws have a rather large driveway and pathway and rear area, all that stuff. And
Okay.
he normally uses a snowblower. Fantastic, cool, no problem. With all of the hecticness of the pandemic and everything, he forgot to run all the gas out. So that was unfortunate because I then was the fortunate soul to shovel that. Best part, shovel
Yeah.
broke about 10 minutes in because it was from
Oh,
like
nice.
yeah, 1970
Yes.
shovel did not stand a chance. So I have bought them a newer 2021 model that should last a little bit longer.
And
But
you tested it out and it works perfectly fine.
it works. It works like a champ.
How long does it take to shovel 17 inches of snow?
That amount, about an hour and a half.
Nice.
With regular breaks, because honest to God, my back was killing me.
Regular breaks.
Oh my God, I took about 2 leaves when I got home, and it was miserable. But yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Awesome. So we
Yeah.
got a little bit of snow, but nothing like what you got. Nothing.
Nothing too bad. Yeah. Well, I hear our friends over in the New York, New England area will be getting a solid 12 to 18 inches in the next few days.
Yes, they're going to start. Well, if they haven't started already, they're going to get it over the next couple of days. You've passed on all of that snow to the fine folks who we know that live over there.
We in the greater Chicagoland area are very giving. The lesser Chicagoland area would have kept that to themselves.
Right.
Greater
Area.
Shares it all up.
Oh, my reward to you. All right. So I wanted to talk to you about a story that happened today, and this really happened today in the car, and it's one of those moments that you have when you realize that you're old.
Okay.
It's totally an unintentional moment. It's not like even a like, oh, I'm old and I feel old kind of thing. It's one of those moments where you realize the world has changed and it's a different world. Okay. And so we're in the car. My son, my oldest son, George, he is 10 years old and he is into wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has gotten the wrestling bug, right? And I don't know if you ever got into wrestling as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Or as an adult, right? I've gone in and out of wrestling, right? So I was a wrestling fan when I was a kid, kind of knew about wrestling, working in radio and doing wrestling events. And then, really didn't pay attention to wrestling for a long time. And now my kids are into it. So, dad's on board because I still know some of the old wrestlers. And,
sure.
My wife kind of was in that era after mine with The Rock and that kind of stuff, right? So,
okay.
So we're in the car, and for whatever reason, I don't know why I believed a 10-year-old could read a calendar and understand what days of the week things were happening on, right? But he's telling me the Royal Rumble is tonight.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's weird because every wrestling event's on a Sunday night.
Yeah, that's
because it's always the battle of does he stay up and watch it because he's got school the next day, right?
Right.
And so like you kind of like see if you can get into one wrestling match he's really excited to see before he goes to bed or whatever. But Royal Rumble is like one of my favorite events in wrestling. If you don't know what the Royal Rumble is, it's 30 guys, two start in the ring together, they wrestle, and then every 2 minutes, another new wrestler comes into the ring.
Right.
And to be eliminated, you have to go over the top rope and both your feet have to touch the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the whole premise, right? So you can have 6 guys in the ring at one time. It's
right.
fun. It's fun to see who they bring out. Every once in a while, there's like a shock, like surprise wrestler you haven't seen in a while who comes back and that kind of thing. So we're all excited for the Royal Rumble, and I'm just like, this is so weird, right? Like, why in the world would it be on a Monday night? It just doesn't make sense. And I, of course, didn't bother to look, right? I'm like,
right.
Whatever, I'll take his word for it. He's, all over the internet, all over these things. And we're in the car, and he's like, you think we'll make it back in time for the Royal Rumble? And my wife goes, well, I already know who won. And I'm like, and I look at her, I go, it was last night, right? And she's like, yeah, it happened last night. I was surprised you guys didn't watch it, but I already know who won.
Oh, no.
And my son is just destroyed at this point. He's like,
Yeah.
what? No, I looked and it said the first, right? And he's just going nuts, right? And I say, look, we have WWE Network. You can go back and watch the replay. It's not that
Mhm.
big a deal, right?
Right.
But he, in the moment, he wanted to see it live, right?
Live. I get it.
Right. And then I said, well, hey, at least you can go back and watch the replay. When I was a kid, we had three channels: ABC, CBS, NBC, right? And he
Yep.
goes, well, what about Fox? We didn't have Fox. I remember when Fox came on. I remember the first show was The Great Space Coaster with Gary Gnu, the news guy, who said all the GNUs is good GNUs, right? Or whatever that was, right? Like that's what I remember. Okay,
Oh
so
my God.
I'm not even there yet. So we're talking, and he's like, "What do you mean?" Right? I go, "Well, I remember when cable came in, right?" But then when cable came in, there was the big thing about I want my MTV because cable didn't carry MTV at
Yep.
first in some areas, right? Because the nature of some of the rock and roll videos was,
Mhm.
gonna warp the minds of children, and it was
Yeah.
adult content, right? We don't want that for our families and stuff. And here's the moment when my son goes, "What's MTV?"
Oh my God. Oh,
And I go, so I'm in a car on my way to
no.
Target with my family, and I'm now explaining to my 10-year-old son MTV, the importance of MTV, and then where MTV went astray when it stopped showing music videos.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know why they make music videos today. Like it still boggles my brain how like
Yeah.
they don't have a channel that they show it on that anybody cares about. And then and then my son goes, for YouTube. I'm like, and that's when I realized my son has never seen MTV.
Th- Okay.
Has
That
never
just
had a reason to watch MTV, and has never then been impacted by things like the real world, and like he's none of that. And I'm realizing that reality television is the world that he lives in, because if you go to any source on YouTube and watch any of these things that he
Mhm.
watches where people screen playing video games at each other, and that's all their reality TV. And it was just in a moment of realization where I said, oh my God, I remember when MTV was created.
Oh my God.
I can tell you the first video that played on MTV.
Yes. A video killed the radio star.
Ah, very good, by the band The Buggles.
The Buggles. Yeah.
And I have a 10-year-old son who has never seen
Never seen that. So that
it.
by proxy makes me feel old as well, because MTV was a huge, and you said a key thing was the real world. That was
Yeah.
a show I loved. I watched when I was a kid, right? It was just interesting watching all the different videos. The other one, VH1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The late
Loved
version of
VH1.
MTV.
Oh my
The
God, yes.
so adults could watch videos.
Exactly. Pop-up video, that was my
Pop-up
favorite.
video.
That was jam.
That by
That was my jam.
far
That
was the
was
greatest thing ever created.
pop-up video. It was the
It,
best thing ever.
bloop,
I
and then that fact, right?
Yep.
And then you wanted to read it before it went bloop, and when
And
and you missed that fact.
I am not a quick reader, so I got very frustrated very often because I would miss so many facts. It really upset, like, so I'd be watching my favorite video and I'd be like, what? Damn it, when was that song made? What was it based on? What did the lead singer eat for dinner that night that made him think of this lyric?
He
Pissed me
wrote that
off.
where?
Yeah,
He was
it's
in
like
whose bathroom when he wrote that? Oh,
now
yes.
now I can just go on my phone and be like, what was the thought behind that? Oh, there you go. 2 seconds later.
Right, right. The world's a different place, but yes. And that was the realization. I was just sitting there like, oh my God, my kids
No clue.
have never had to worry about like what a video wait for the video to come on. Remember the video premiere? I remember the Michael Jackson video premieres were always big, right? And I
Yep.
remember with Thriller, right? Because it was filmed on like 16 millimeter film,
Mhm.
and it was an actual real film that could be submitted to the Oscars the way it was produced. And I
Right.
remember waiting for that premiere to come on of that video, and now my kids just go, oh, I'm just gonna go on to
YouTube
Vimeo
and
or
whatever.
and just watch it, right? And it's like, are you kidding
Ridiculous.
me right now? So yeah, there was a moment. today.
That's
So that's how old I am.
that
Yeah.
is so similar concept. This wasn't. It was probably maybe a year ago. And working in technology, of course, people need to save things. And a customer brought in a 3.5-inch floppy disk.
Wow.
So right, like they just said, "Hey, how can I get information on this onto a new computer?"
Would you like to print that off your dot matrix printer, please?
Like really? So
With little spin ball.
There was a person maybe 20 years old working there as well, and said, "Oh, what is that?" And I said, "Well, this is a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Like this is what we used to save on before, like CDs or the cloud and stuff like that." And they're like, "Oh, I thought you guys had just printed off the save icon, like a smaller save icon. What is that what that is?" And I was like, "I just realized that you don't realize that that's what we used to save it on. That's why it's the save button."
Right. It's shaped like that.
Like that
used to be the only place you could save to.
That's it. Like that was it. And you would always pull back the little metal piece and look through. Like that was the best part. So that was a similar, not quite as jarring probably as the MTV piece, but it was one of those things where I realized, oh my goodness, like you really have no concept of previous technology.
No. And it changed so fast.
It did.
And what became like the cool of the moment. Remember, what was zip drives?
Yep.
When that was like a real hot thing. What you could save fast.
Yeah.
And more data, right? And then it was suddenly DAT tape, right? Remember DATs?
Mm-hmm.
I still have a DAT tape somewhere. It's got an interview on it. Yeah, we used them on radio. But digital audio tape, that was the thing for like a hot second. I remember the first CD player I ever saw, and I didn't own it. It was in a radio station.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 16 years old, 17 years old, and I'm in the radio station, and they have this new thing, and it's a compact disc player.
Ooh.
And we only had like 4 discs.
Right.
Right. And so like you would die to wait for that time of the day when you got to play Meatloaf, Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, on compact disc.
That's awesome.
Right? Because you would, and it's like in radio when you run a board and the slides are there. When you hit on, it starts whatever it is.
Okay.
Like it's an auto start feature, right? So, with the compact disc player, because it was a real like home compact disc player, it was huge, right?
Yeah.
And you put the disc in and you cue it up, and you literally have to pot it up, hit on, and hit play. Like that was big talent moments, right? When you could get it seamless, right? Because that was none of that today. That's all automated.
Right.
There's no skill in matching sounds and whatever. But I remember that was like the big thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, can't you hear how great that is?" And I was like,
"No,
not
really."
Sounds the same. It's a song, right? But I remember like that was the big thing. So I got hooked on it because that was the big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they have these what they call cart machines, and they're metal boxes that a CD fits into a tray, and the tray slides in, and you dial it up. Or now it's all digital, right? But even that has progressed, right? But the funny thing was, I remember like the first CD player, and now like that home CD player doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, no. So I will have you know, if you drive up to the Detroit metropolitan area, and if you knock on my parents' door, they still have a CD player. I'm going to roughly estimate is from like 1994.
Wow.
Hooked up to like these big Sano speakers.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the big wooden ones with like the cloth on the. My dad refused to give that thing up for whatever reason, but he also has a very large CD collection, and everything works just fine, no problems.
Yeah,
it's a Sony, so it was built to last. But yeah, if you're looking for one, maybe if you give him a couple thousand, he'd think about parting with it. But
a couple grand for a $40 CD player.
He literally wants his investment back. Like he spent probably excuse me, probably $800 or $900 on it. So give him that much, he'll think about it.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
I mean, now the world is, hey, on my phone, I can pull up any song I want to at any time.
Yep.
Right. Totally just wild in that moment. But yes, that was my moment today when I realized that, the world had changed faster than even I had perceived it,
Right.
and realized that I have a 10-year-old kid who will never play a record, never play a cassette tape.
You don't, well, okay, I will admit cassette tape is out the window. That's just never going to happen. But the records, those are coming back. Like
Well, yeah,
more,
vinyl still has its place, right? People
100%.
still hold on to vinyl. Some people think that vinyl sounds better than, whatever. I'm not into that whole audiophile piece of that. People really get into it, but I
Yeah.
have a turntable, but again, limited record supply because I only have so many vinyl pieces.
Right.
Um, you get, I don't even know if you remember 8-track.
That was actually before my time.
Yeah, so I had an 8-track player in my first car.
Mhm.
These things were like monster,
So
you know.
the only reason I know about all of this different music stuff, whether it's a turntable, 8-track, cassette, all that different stuff, I used cassettes, CDs, and digital, obviously.
Sure.
Before that, my dad was the one who had the biggest fad of whatever it was. When
Okay.
records were he literally has about 10 to 12 crates full of records that he
Sure.
bought from however long he collected them, right?
Right.
And he still has a whole tub of 8-tracks. And I'm like, why do you
Really?
why? You don't have an 8-track player? He's like, I could
Yeah.
find one. And I'm like, really? It's
I
been
don't know
about
where.
37 to 40, like 40 to years. You haven't found one yet. You're not going to. You're not going to look for it. Just sell them. Like, I'm sure it's a collectible for somebody.
Right.
He won't give it up.
Wow. 8-track, yeah. You see them very rarely, right? I mean, they're just not something that you see anymore because there's no real demand or use for them, right? The garage sale, every once in a while you'll come across like an 8-track, right? And I remember we used to wedge stuff in to make the 8-track play to hold it in line with the heads of the player. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. But yeah, 8-track. I mean, it's just a weird world, right? And now once it went digital, and it's weird how the music industry allowed that to happen to a sense of, hey, here's a replaceable product that you continue to have to buy because you wear out. Cassettes wore out, 8-tracks wore out, vinyl got scratched, right? So people bought Dark Side of the Moon 5 times before it ever hit, a CD. And then suddenly it was, here's a digital copy that never wears out, never goes bad, and you'll never have to replace it. That sounds great for the consumer, but not necessarily great for the industry.
100%.
So a very interesting, just timeline of life and what I've lived through that my kids are like, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? Can't you just pull it up on your phone?
Well, it's the same thing. I knew some kids who were doing a research paper, and they're searching Google and Google Scholars and their library, like, the library, online library.
Yeah.
And I'm like, be grateful that you have that. I had the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
That was my Google. And if it wasn't in there, it didn't get discussed.
And you're hoping it was right.
And that's the other thing, right? So my parents were like, we're going to invest in your future. We're going to invest in you and your education. Full Encyclopedia Britannica. It was up on the bookshelf to display like we were freaking Rhodes Scholars or something. And that I honestly feel like I used them like truly.
Right.
I'm going to say 7 to 10 times. I went to the library for anything else.
So let me tell you. So this totally happened. My parents, not a lot of money, right? And wow, I want to say married in the late 50s. They've been married, 55 years, something like that. So do the math, whatever. And my dad's an avid reader. Reads all the time. Always brings me stacks of books as if I'm going to have time to read all of them, right? Which love my dad to death, but he brings me stacks of books, and he's read them all. He'll literally be reading 2 different books, and he'll just trade off between them. And he's an avid reader, reads all the time.
Yeah.
And we had this old Encyclopedia Britannica set at home. And I don't remember even why I asked, but I was a kid, and I was like, Dad, like, did they really come to your house and sell these? Because they used to go door to door. And my dad's like, well, yeah. He goes, this is where we got these. I bought them. And I go, okay. He said, you actually bought an encyclopedia set, like from somebody who came to your house and said they're selling encyclopedias. And my dad says, I needed something to read. And my dad read that entire Encyclopedia Britannica set from A to Z.
It's all right. He learned a lot. I'd be willing to bet from
Sure.
aardvark to zygote.
Sure. Yep.
That's
So.
ridiculous.
I
Who?
don't know.
What would you do if you walked in today? You're at your dad's house and you just saw him popping open G. Midway through G, he's going down. Yeah, right. Like, well,
Dad, is Gary Canoe on there from the Great Space Coaster? Is he in that
this was
version?
before his time. This
This
was
is
we
not-
bought these in
Why are you making
1970,
fun of
whatever.
Don't make fun of this.
It's fantastic.
Dad. No, my dad would probably crack a joke and tell you to go away. And then my dad used to be the guy he'd read until he would fall asleep.
Okay.
And I don't know how he would do this, right? And you'd look over and realize that he was asleep. His book was, either on his chest or in his lap. He was asleep. And you'd go turn the dial at TV because at the time you had to get up and turn the dial. And he'd go, I'm watching that. You'd be like, Dad, you were asleep. And he'd go, I was resting my eyes.
It's every father and grandfather always. Every
I can't
time.
figure it out. How did he know every time? I don't know. But there you go. So
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that your son does not know. Well, both of them, because that's
my 5-year-old will never. I mean, that'll be a whole different discussion, right? Because think about by the time he's 10, what will his world be?
I
mean,
I'd love to know
the meshing of video games and music and entertainment just becomes more and more and more. I mean, my son, so George, my older one, he goes on a GarageBand on his iPhone and creates songs, and they are not horrible.
Yeah. And
I just like, and he's like, yeah, that's pretty good, right? Love you. I'm gonna say yes.
Well, of course, no matter what. No matter what.
There's really no other answer. That's his world.
That makes me sad because one of my favorite parts about being a kid growing up was my guitar, my buddy getting his bass, my other buddy getting his drum, setting it up in my garage, and just sounding terrible for the neighborhood to hear.
Right.
Literally forcing everybody to hear because that's not how it is nowadays.
No, my son is freaking DJ Marshmallow. He produces stuff that I literally was like, oh, who did that, right? And he's like, oh, that's mine, and I'm like, yeah. So, it's a different world, man. Different world.
So I do have some interesting facts.
Have you prepared something?
I did. I prepared a little something.
Wow, because last week prepared today.
I feel like last week we had some success with true or false type situations.
Yes.
This isn't like that. I just wanted to inform you about some things. Just give you some interesting facts. I like to call
story time with Joe again.
Kind of.
Okay.
It's unlikely but true. That's what I'm going to title it. Unlikely but true. These are interesting facts that I have researched, found some interesting things that I like to know, and I thought you and of course the listeners, viewers, whomever might also be interested in.
I have an inquisitive mind, so I cannot wait.
I love it. Okay, so the first thing now, do you enjoy Pringles?
Pringles in a can.
Yes.
Yes, you can mix and match them and make different flavors. Yes.
They're fantastic.
Not probably the healthiest thing for you, but yes, every once in a while.
No. We're not talking about health. We're talking about just enjoying.
When I was a kid, that was the only potato chips that we ever got.
Oh, really?
We didn't get bags of chips. You got a Pringles can.
Oh, dang.
When I was a kid, I thought original Pringles. Oh no, they were tall cans.
Oh, the tall ones. Okay.
Yeah. I thought that was potato chips.
I mean, kind of.
There was no other brand.
Like nothing else?
No.
When we went to school, now obviously health was not like of the utmost importance when I went to. We had Zapp's potato chips.
You had what?
Zapp's. Have you ever heard of Zapp's?
No.
Yeah, so it must have been like a Chicago.
Is that a Chicagoland area thing?
No, actually, I think they're a New Orleans product that made their way up here.
Wow, they come up the river.
Apparently. But so back to Pringles now.
Okay.
The name for the shape of Pringles is called a hyperbolic paraboloid.
Are you sure you said that right?
Hyperbolic paraboloid. Yes, it took me a second because I had to make it. It's a tongue twist. You try to
It
say
took me a
hyperbolic
second
paraboloid.
because I had to make it up.
I had to make it up. No, none of it's true. That's why it's unlikely.
Okay.
Now I will ask you this in the just a question format. Do you know the first toy ever to be advertised on TV?
First toy ever. Raggedy Ann doll.
Mr. Potato Head.
Oh yes, I did know that. I knew that. Oh, I'm mad at myself. I did know that. I saw that on something, but the potato was actually a potato you furnished. You just stuck the eyes in it. Yeah, that's why it's Mr. Potato Head. It actually wasn't the plastic figure. You
just made a potato.
You took a potato
and they gave you the eyes and the ears.
Yeah.
Huh.
I might be completely wrong on that, but I believe I truly am right on
that. That sounds feasible. I mean, they put cocaine in Coca-Cola, so
that is true.
Shoving something in a potato does not seem unlikely.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you just got the parts you put in the potato. The actual potato figure came later.
There is a McDonald's restaurant on every continent with the exception of Antarctica.
I did know that.
So now this begs follow-up questions. Have you ever been to a McDonald's in any other country?
I've been to McDonald's in Ireland. Been to McDonald's in France at the bottom of the Louvre. By the way, yes.
Well,
so
no.
So my wife and I went to Paris, and we went to the Louvre, and there's a McDonald's in the actual lowest level. So like, if you've watched is it Angels and Demons? What's the Dan Brown book that was
Da Vinci Code?
Da Vinci Code, right? Where they have the inversion of the pyramid, right?
Yes.
That is actually on that level, right outside the McDonald's. Yes, I know. So very
out
bizarre.
of place.
When you see the movie, you're like, what? And then I've been to the McDonald's that's right across the street from the Pantheon in Rome. You are frozen. Or that is the greatest single look up.
That's what it is. Am I back? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, but so I've been in Rome. There's one right across the street from is it the Parthenon? The Parthenon. Parthenon. Yeah, the Parthenon. So yes, again, very weird, right? When you see pictures of the Parthenon, you always see it from a certain angle because there's this huge McDonald's. Yes.
So, of those McDonald's you have been to,
yes,
what is the most interesting? Like, how does it differ from the American McDonald's for people who haven't been there?
So the food doesn't taste the same. So everybody says, oh, the thing about McDonald's is the food tastes the same no matter where you go. That is not true.
That is not true.
The food, every McDonald's to me is different, right? Because it's not like the food they source in another country comes from that country. It's not the same.
Right.
El Royale with cheese was a lie. That was my biggest thing. I tried to order that in France, and the guy got mad at me. They don't put cheese on their hamburgers. The McDonald's in France.
That's weird.
The one at the Louvre. And he was like, no cheese. And he just kept on.
Okay. Like, désolé. No fromage.
Right. And I was like, all right. But yeah, I think the weird thing to me is everybody's like, oh, the McDonald's experience is the reason why McDonald's is so, the experience is the same no matter where you go, and the food tastes the same, and it's like being at home every time. And no, it's not true at all.
So I have been to, and I don't know if this really counts, but Canadian McDonald's, it's not really that big of a difference. Like, it is pretty much American McDonald's.
Okay.
Australia.
I always wonder, is the Tim Hortons in the United States pretty much the same as the Tim Hortons in Canada?
Kind of.
I'm just wondering, do they, so the reason why I ask is because Guinness, they have this. I don't know if it's still true or not, or maybe true, or maybe this is myth that has grown out of the Guinness brewery. But they always talk about how the best Guinness they save in Ireland, the second best Guinness product they send to the United States, and the worst Guinness they send to England. And that's why in England they don't drink Guinness as much. That's the thing, And so I'm always wondering, the Canadians go oh, our Tim Hortons is great, but let's send the crappy stuff to the U.S.
So the thing that
get yourself a Tim.
amazes me is Tim Hortons. Well, Tim's isn't all over the U.S., which is the thing I don't get. Like it's right by the border, and I don't get it because I feel like that place would overtake Dunkin' Donuts in a heartbeat.
Oh
I
no,
really
it
do.
actually. So we just had a Dunkin' Donuts go into our town here in Ohio, and we've had a Tim Hortons here for a very long time, and the Tim
Really?
Hortons getting destroyed right now. So
Really?
so obviously with COVID a little bit different, right? But
Right.
the Dunkin' Donuts is drive up only, and they just built this thing, and it has a line all the time, and the building is not in a big area, so it goes out the parking lot and starts to get into traffic, right?
Right.
It's bad. And then the boys always are like, "Oh, can we go to Dunkin' Donuts?" And I'm like, "Well, we can't go inside, and I'm not waiting in that line, right?"
Right.
We drive down the block
Mhm.
to Tim's, pull into the speaker and order.
Yeah.
It's literally that bad. So for whatever reason, the Dunkin' Donuts has been the thing.
That surprises me. Okay. Well, no. So here's what I'll say. The few Tims I have been to in the Buffalo-ish area
Yeah,
that's right over the border,
right.
it's good. I guess that Canadian magic just they put a little bit of that Canadian dust on it to make it just a little bit better.
They
Uh,
sprinkle it with niceness and love.
exactly. It's baked with niceness and love.
Yeah.
That's all it is to it. But the Australian, the biggest difference between McDonald's Meccas, as they call it over in over down under, is
Never heard anybody
a
call it over
it's
down under.
over down under whatever it's called.
Over down under. Upside north.
Upside north, depending on where you are, it's over and then they're down under. You got to go over and then down under.
It's not, are you from down? Are you from over down under?
Are you from over down under? Uh their sizing is
Yes, I
the
have heard
biggest thing.
that.
So Americans like the large there, the
Yes.
large
Yes.
was about half of our large. Like it wasn't quite the medium, it wasn't that small, but it was a
Okay.
little bit bigger than that.
Yes.
And which is perfectly fine, but it's just amazing how we get things like remember the super big gulp from
Oh
7-Eleven?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Biggie size at Wendy's, like
Yeah.
king size, all these it's like how do you need that much?
Because
How
we're fucking
really?
Americans.
I guess like I when I was there, I was like, oh, I'll just have a medium. And it was like that big. And I was like, oh, I want a little bit more than that, but that's fine. And they're like, oh, American Eye. And I was like, what gave it away? What gave it away?
My
But
food portions and my tennis shoes. That's what
exactly.
gave it away.
And the funny thing is, they measure in most countries, I believe, that are not the US, they measure in kilojoules, not calories. Did you know that?
Well, I did not know that. I don't
So
even know what kilojoule is.
it is the metric version, I believe,
No,
of the
got me
calorie.
on it. No, no idea.
There's the little fact thrown in there off to the side.
So in kilojoules, I weigh much less. That's what you're saying.
So what is do you know what the average daily consumption is in calories? I think it's like 2,400
Yeah,
calories,
something like that, right?
something like that. For
Yeah,
kilojoules, it was something much, much larger. Like the
yeah,
kilojoules, completely different.
yeah. My intake's perfect.
Yeah. If you look at kilojoules, I'm fine.
Well,
If you
I'm
look at
fine.
calories, I'm screwed. Started that
I'm killing myself slowly in the U.S., but
kilojoule.
everywhere
Yeah,
else,
exactly.
I'm great.
Yeah, okay. Well, that is the only place that does not have McDonald's is Antarctica. Now, I'm a Weird Al fan.
I do know you're a Weird Al fan.
Love Weird Al Yankovic.
It's not that I'm not a Weird Al fan. I always
No,
make that seem like I'm like against him or something. No,
no, not at
I
all.
enjoy the Weird Al, but you
I
enjoy it another level.
I
Shall we
do.
say?
I have seen him in concert probably 8 or 10 times.
I've
Most
never seen
recent
him.
most recently was 2019 when he did his No Strings Attached tour. Outstanding.
Oh.
He brought a full orchestra. Oh, it was outstanding. He did a lot of his deeper cuts. Only the real fans went to that. Yeah, if you want to hear Amish Paradise, that's not the concert to go to. If you want to hear One More Minute, if you want to hear Harvey the Wonder Hamster, the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota, that's where you go. And it was literally a dream come true. Jurassic Park. Oh, don't get me started. Anyway,
did I say another level? I meant 5 other levels.
I love Weird Al.
Sorry.
I
That
love Weird
elevator
Al.
went a lot higher than I really gave it credit for.
I'm going to say one more embarrassing fact about myself and my love for Weird Al. Whilst in probably 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I only wore Hawaiian shirts to school every day. I literally had about
Because
50.
of your idol.
Yep. 100%. No joke.
Yeah.
I loved them.
Did you learn to play the accordion?
If it was not in my storage unit, I would bring it out right now and play you something.
No way.
Not even kidding.
You really learned to play because of Weird Al? Please tell me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I
true.
did not even know that about
That's
you.
true story. Yeah,
Wow.
I can play an accordion. I have this. So it all started. I don't remember why. I remember. So we were at a Jewel Osco getting some groceries. Jewel Osco is people who aren't from Chicago. It is Jewel Osco is your grocery store. It's your Kroger's, it's your Piggly Wiggly, it's whatever your grocery store is. That's where Jewel Osco is for us. And right next door there's a pawn shop. And I saw it in the window. I saw
wait. You go to a grocery store that has a pawn shop next door.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's a Chicago. It's the greater Chicagoland area. What do you expect? Like, I'm sorry. This is
usually a liquor store's attached, but okay.
So it's all one part of a bigger strip mall, right? So that's the anchor, and then a few stores down is your pawn shop. We're walking by to get to the car. I saw this beautiful accordion just sitting right in the window, and I'm like, Mom, kid, only son.
You really want to invest in my education and my future? I'm really gonna need this.
I was like, I'm gonna do this. So she went.
I am the coolest kid ever. I played fife, and I'm about to play an accordion.
Later on, the guitar came around, and that's how I figured out girls really wanted guitar, not fife or accordion.
That's what you're talking about. Weird Al has been killing.
That's true. He has. But so she said, if it's under $200, I will buy it for you, because I know
this heavy stipulation here.
So I went in there and I looked at the guy and I'm like, how much is that accordion? He's like, that one is $195. And I was like, bag her up. Let's go. We're doing
You didn't even negotiate with the pawn guy. You literally dropped what he was asking for it. You've never watched Pawn Stars.
I didn't drop anything. I dropped nothing. My mother, very annoyed that she didn't have an opportunity to go in there and be like, I'll give you $150 for it, whatever. So the thing is, it was a very old accordion, not in the best shape, but it was playable. But there were parts that were like wiggling around. So we took it to this Italian guy who fixed accordions, got it polished up, looking nice. To this day, I love
Chicagoland area. You can find somebody who repairs accordions.
Oh yeah. It's this little old Italian guy.
Oh yeah. He's just down the street.
Yeah, it's not that.
He hems pants on Thursdays.
Exactly. He's a tailor on his size business. So another fact about Weird Al. Weird Al Yankovic wrote the song Albuquerque to be a joke specifically to annoy people for 12 minutes straight, and it ended up becoming one of his most popular songs. Have you ever heard the song Albuquerque?
I have not. I don't believe so.
So I will walk you through it very briefly. It is on his Running with Scissors album, circa 2006.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of great songs on it. The very last song, the 12th song on there, is called Albuquerque.
Okay.
And he literally just talks about his trip to Albuquerque. And it's a variety. He takes a plane ride. It's this whole thing. And it's literally 12 minutes of him. He's not even really singing for a lot of it. For 12 minutes, he's talking about a variety of it's such a good song. So
it's not a song.
It technically is, because he does sing in it a little bit.
Okay.
And there is musical interludes.
Oh, wow.
But it's
a spoken word.
It is a spoken word, yes, 100%.
Okay.
So I don't know why this just triggered something in my mind. It's somewhat off topic. Am I the only one who thinks Tom Petty does not sing? He just talks in every song he's ever.
Pure sacrilege.
Well, first of all, let's just clear the record here. I love Tom Petty, huge Tom Petty fan, one of my favorite guys of all time. But he doesn't sing. He just talks.
I think later on you can make that case for Dylan. You can make that case for Tom Petty. Like the raspiness that they have in their voice at that point. I think you can make that case for Bruce Springsteen a little bit as he gets older. There's like a less effort in the singing part.
Yes.
And so, and I know I've just killed 3 mega icons of people who are going to be like, that's my favorite artists.
We're not
You
saying
know.
they're bad.
No, I mean,
It's
huge
just
American
I'm a
Girl from
huge
Tom
fan of
Petty
all.
is a phenomenal song, and Dylan, you know, was All Along the Watchtower was the song he wrote that he said he should have kept for himself, right? And um, obviously Springsteen's an '80s icon, right? But I was never a big Springsteen fan. In fact, I have the worst Springsteen actual concert story. So I'm not a huge Springsteen fan.
Okay.
I don't know any of the songs that aren't hit records. Like I didn't grow up with Springsteen. It wasn't
Yeah.
something I really immersed myself. I know people who are diehard
Right.
Springsteen fans, right? So I get asked to go to Springsteen's show, and so it's not a Springsteen concert. It was for an opening act. They wanted me to go see the opening act to try and get it played on my radio station, and the thing was that I gotta go see Springsteen, right?
Sure.
And it's like the tour they did with the E Street Band to play all the E Street Band songs. So none of the hits.
Right. It's all of the.
Not one. Not, you know.
So you know none of it.
Not one song I've ever heard in my life. And I literally, and I'm about to admit this, I walked out of the show. I literally was like, I so am not enjoying this. Like, I'm so bad to the point where the record rep literally turns to me and goes, "How you doing? Are you enjoying this?" And I'm like, no.
I mean, not a single song.
I don't know anything. He's like, "Oh, you're really not a fan." I'm like, no. I mean, I know enough about the band and enough about, but yeah, I walked out. So yeah, all the Springsteen fans can now fry me for that, but it just wasn't my thing.
That's understandable because I enjoy, like you said, all of the big hits of Springsteen. Love them. I think they're great, but I couldn't tell you, like, if you played a song that was not one of those hits, I would be like, is Bruce covering that, or is that a song he did? I don't really know.
Right. Look, I was there all the way through Tunnel of Love. I was there when it was a hit record, but when it went to these other songs, I was like, oh, I don't even understand. Out. Yeah.
I'm out.
And like I said, I thought there was gonna be at least one, dude was a baseball player, could throw that speedball by you. Right. There was nothing. I was like, all right,
see
you later. I went home early.
But again, we would like to say we enjoy these people. For those people who are going to eviscerate us in any sort of a comment,
oh, I know,
we like them.
I just open for the fact that people now hate me, but that's all right. You froze again, and that is a phenomenal look for you. That home internet's killing you, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Here we go. I just upgraded it to like this 1,000 fiber, whatever. I'm gonna call AT&T tomorrow. It just told me bad network quality right there.
That is rocking.
It's not doing its job. Okay. New thing here. So do you know the name of the inventor of the Rubik's Cube?
Rubik, I believe is his last name.
That's his last name. Do you know his first name? I love this name.
No, I don't remember his name.
So his name is Erno Rubik. Okay.
Okay.
And he's the creator of the Rubik's Cube. And it took him 1 month to solve the cube after he created it.
Have you seen? No, go ahead. You were saying something.
Well, I was just going to. As of 2018 in June, the world record is 4.22 seconds.
And have you seen those guys?
Yes. It's.
Have you seen the documentary?
No.
I believe on Netflix.
Okay.
There's a documentary about the two guys that are the best in the world.
Oh.
At least for a period of time. And we're talking about the multi-cubes too. Like, there's different. I didn't know anything about this, and I was interested because I cannot solve a Rubik's Cube. Never have been able to. I know there's some mathematical formula, but it gets beyond match all the colors on one side with the top ring being all the same, and then flip it over. And I've lost. Right? Not my skill set, but there's a documentary about these two guys and their skill. Right, and they do the 4x4 cube, whatever the cube is, the basic cube, and then they do the advanced cubes, and they do them with one hand, and they're spinning these things around, and they're constantly solving them, and these guys do it in seconds. It is unbelievable, but it's a great story about two guys that are rivals, but they're friends. One of them is autistic. You really start rooting for him through the movie. There's, and these kids are really good at it until they have to start worrying about going to college and getting jobs, and then they can't practice as much, and they lose speed.
Right.
It's amazing,
Of course.
dude. Like any other professional athlete. Like if you don't work the skill set right, eventually it goes away.
Your dexterity, 100%.
I will tell you, it is an amazing documentary if you have not seen it. Very entertaining and literally makes you feel like, why in the heck could I not ever solve one of those things? Because if I could have, look at what these guys can do, right? So, very cool.
I, much like you, have attempted a few times. I'm going to say I tried it probably for a month straight. Not obviously continuously, but I would try for maybe 30, 45 minutes in a day, set it down out of frustration because it was either that or chuck it against the wall. And I maybe got like 4 pieces like matched. These people who just,
oh yeah, crazy.
I'm like, what?
Crazy.
I can't do math in my head that fast. You're gonna just do that and then you're done? Like, what the hell is that?
I love when they then explain it, right? Oh, here's how you solve one, and I still go, what? Like,
oh, okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Oh, here. So in the time of Corona, right? We need to be conscious of sneezing, coughing. Did you know if you sneeze while traveling at 60 miles per hour, your eyes are closed for an average of 50 feet?
Wait a minute. This is going to be some kind of like you go at the same distance as your sneeze and it catches you in the face or something like that.
Well, probably that too. So if you're traveling at 60 miles per hour,
you would have your eyes closed for 50 feet.
Sneeze 50 feet of that, your eyes will be closed. Okay. That's why it's very dangerous to sneeze while driving.
Do not text and drive, and do not sneeze and drive.
So yeah, those are the 2 ones that get you.
that's the unknown. That's the silent killer right there.
Here's one that I personally enjoyed. I
love how you you're just like, oh, I just thought of this is new. This was just created.
Because I have a few here, and I wanted to pick out my favorites.
Okay.
I have 2 more after this. So alligators will give manatees the right of way if they are swimming near each other. Like there is. Yep.
Look how you're so like, yes. Yep. This is true.
I thoroughly researched this on 3 different sites. I did. And it's all
you consulted 3 sources. That's all you needed.
That's so if that's wrong, a lot of people are telling me bad information.
And if it's on the internet, it has to be true.
It has to be right. Hello.
Right. Especially if 3 places put it on there. All the same story.
I can't check the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's up in Detroit, Michigan. I'm not sure if
wait, let's call my dad. Hey, Dad. Yeah, let's call
Pop.
Hey,
what
Garrett,
are you doing?
When you read this, did this ever come up? Wow, that's weird. I wonder why, because you would think they would want to eat them.
You would maybe, I don't know. It didn't. That's the thing. It never gave a reason as to why.
Right. It's the hungry alligator. Give that right
might
away.
Be different. So it doesn't say hungry alligator. It just says alligator will give right of way. Wow. But it's nice to know that courteous driving and swimming exists in all
somewhere. Yes.
Right. Somewhere it happens.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of baked beans. I love baked beans. I camped a lot when I was a kid, so baked bean was like a staple.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say, I'm a huge fan of baked beans.
I love baked beans. I think they're
I mean, I will eat them. I like them.
Delicious.
My wife does not like beans, so we never have them.
Oh, that's understandable. I mean, I could see why somebody doesn't like them, but I think it's because I grew up camping a lot, and that was like
so did I. Yeah.
That and hot dogs. Like those are the 2 things you ate when you were camping.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Baked beans used to be part of like a all-American meal in the Midwest. Like that's part of food, right? Like baked beans, it's ketchup and whatever in pork and beans, right? I mean, we had pork and beans all the time.
Did you know baked beans are not actually baked at all? They are stewed.
I did not know that.
This is for you.
Why are they called baked beans then?
It's a great question.
It sounds better than stewed beans.
I would not eat stewed beans.
Kind of gross.
That would not happen at all.
Hey kids, come on! We're gonna have some stewed beans and pork. Pork and stewed beans. Hormel never made it that way.
Do you have a favorite? I prefer Bush's.
I couldn't even tell you. I've had Bush's baked beans. I think that's kind of like the brand of choice now, right? They kind of have wheedled their way into that market. I
When
think
I walked,
Hormel used to be the one, right? It
oh yeah,
wasn't, or Vandecamp's. Was it Vandecamp's baked beans?
I don't know about the Hormel. Definitely was,
But
but
I
I
think
know
Hormel, right?
when I walk down the grocery store aisle with the beans, I can tell you that Bush's is at eye level, and you know the
Yeah,
stuff at the
yeah.
grocery store that's eye level is the top stuff.
That's what they're trying to sell, right?
Uh, did you know that digging a hole to China, you know, the concept of trying to
Yeah.
dig a hole to
Right.
China, is actually possible if you start in Argentina? So if you are in Argentina and dig, that would be the most likely
See,
theoretical way to get to
you
China.
think you're never going to use a globe until you like have a conversation with us, and suddenly you're like,
There it
does
is.
that? Oh,
That
there you
matches up.
go. Ah, I did not think about that. How far could you really get? You're going to hit bedrock at some point.
Eventually, well, I mean, like, let's pretend you did a really, really good job. You're gonna die in the freaking core. Like, you have to get
Well,
through the core. That's the
if
part nobody
that
ever gets.
exists.
Well, okay. Sorry.
There are those people.
That's right.
The flat earthers right now. Let's just make everybody mad. The flat earthers are my favorite, right?
They're
Because
good.
according to them, if you dig a hole straight down, eventually you just fall through.
Well, I
Like,
mean,
where else are you going?
if that's the case, I would like to try. Let's prove it. Like, why don't you go ahead and dig your hole through from Argentina? You will fall out. I will end up in China.
Look, I think it's
Test it out.
crazy. I think the whole flat earth thing is nuts to me, but you know, I mean, I guess there's worse things to believe in. I'm not really sure.
Okay. And here my final one, and it's my favorite one,
Okay.
because this is a country I have yet to visit, but I plan to once everything normalizes everything.
Have I been?
Again, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right.
Somebody we both know has been there though, and I believe their honeymoon was there.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I think you know, where is it?
Iceland.
That's it. So as of 1998,
Yes.
over 50% of Iceland's population believed in the existence of elves.
Oh, I so believe that. I so believe that. So, I do know somebody who lives in Iceland.
Oh, okay.
Actually, they're expecting their first child, so
Oh,
congratulations.
congratulations to
We
them.
just learned that. But I can tell you that that is, you know, the Nordic population that went to Iceland and really and has driven their culture. I absolutely believe that. Fairies, the whole bit, dwarves, elves.
Hmm. It's a beautiful
I'm
country.
not surprised by that at all.
Hmm. I was surprised by that. Like,
Really?
I because I have never really, I guess I never really looked into the culture so much. Because I will admit, when I go someplace, I like to do that. Since we have not had like solid plans to go there, I really just looked at pictures, looked
Right.
at bed and breakfast, like figure out where we would stay conceivably. But I would get more interested in that. And now that I know that that happened as of 1998, I'm sure nowadays it is either, I feel like it's either grown considerably or
Right.
has died down a little bit. But for
Right.
some reason, I feel like an exponential growth is what happened.
Well, and I think that you think culturally too, right? You're talking about a very small population compared to other populations of the world. Those kinds of stories continue, right? That oral history and those oral myths and legends, like those continue to be told and be redeveloped. And you know what? Quite honestly, like you know, people believed in dragons and people believe in I think every culture in the world has a dragon in their mythology. It's the
Yes.
only connecting being that exists in everybody's cultural bringing, right? But do we believe dragons were real? No.
Well, oh, I'm sorry. I have proof. Have you ever been to medieval times? It's dragon blood soup that they serve you. So
Medieval times.
myth debunked.
Oh,
Okay,
jeez.
funny
I
story
have
about
been to medieval times, by the way. That's
you have or have not.
hysterical. I have, yes, in California.
My 25th birthday. That's where
You
I
went to
went for my
medieval times?
and I was they were asking like
You
up
went naked
front,
with your
like, is it
fingers?
anybody's birthday? And they said, yes, it's Joe's birthday. He's turning 25. The lady gave me the dirtiest look. So they're announcing birthdays. So the lady with the scroll, James celebrating his 5th birthday, Sarah her 13th birthday, Joe his 25th birthday, and it was so much judgment. And I just stood up and I was like, please exalt me. I am a grown man who enjoys, you know, a fair medieval
The jousting
adventure.
competition.
Oh, it's so good. It's so, and you know what honestly sparked it? The cable guy.
Oh yes, of course. That was my
That's
reference, right?
that's
Medieval times, right? I mean, that is hysterically funny. And then I
it's
don't know if you remember, and I don't remember if it was History Channel, but they did a jousting reality show. Do you remember this? And every week the competitors on the show had to joust each other, and the one that lost got kicked off. And the guy that was the host of the show, who I think had a big hand in putting it all together, he does the medieval fairs where they do jousting,
oh,
and he does the one here close to where I live in Ohio.
really?
Yeah, and it's like a real circuit of guys that go out and do this. And I think he like was the one was kind of the spark behind the show because he knew all these guys that did
Well,
jousting, got them all together and they did the show. Don't remember what it was called. It was actually really, really fun
hmm,
to watch. But yeah, so like medieval times is fun, dude. There's
that's a
if
great time.
you're into like any of that type of like medieval culture, right, or that time period or whatever, like that's the place you go because that's one of those places where you just can have a lot of fun and root for the Black Knight and
Uh,
or the blue one or whatever. They
well,
have
the
right.
Black Knight, the Black Knight rocks. The Red Knight sucks. The big one. Jim Carrey reference,
I
whichever
believe
one it
it.
is.
Yeah, I
But
think
so
so.
I will admit I have been there as an adult, meaning 18 and older, at least 7 times. Now, many of those times were with.
You've
Now,
been
let's
way, way more times than I have.
so at a previous job, that was kind of our big, like, everybody in the store loved it. So when we did really well with something, if we wanted to celebrate something, that's where we went. It
Medieval times
was a
in
great
the
time.
greater Chicagoland area.
So that is like that is the greater Chicagoland area. Like
Hard to say.
it's rough to say it's Chicagoland area because it is a solid almost hour away from Chicago. So it's yeah. But similarly, like how you said you had the people who do the jousting, we have the Bristol Renaissance Fair, and I don't know if they actually do that type of like medieval thing. I
Right.
like I've been there and they dress up and they do that and it's actually a lot of fun. Like I
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's one
Yeah.
of the few places you can get like
Turkey
a
leg.
turkey leg and just
The
eat it.
turkey leg. Absolutely.
It's beautiful. Some grog or some ale. It's outstanding.
I don't know if I've ever had grog or ale there, though.
I made that up. I never had either of those there. But
What?
it's just
Man, you got a real one. Ours is big, and it's not that. Do they do themes? Ours does themes. We have
uh
themed weekends. There's Pirate Weekend. There's Highlander Weekend. I wear my kilt.
oh, I have a kilt too, odd enough.
Yeah, I get married in my kilt.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I have a very strong desire to I've always wanted to get married in a kilt. I have zero Scottish or really Celtic heritage of any sort. Uh, and I would love nothing more than to get married in a kilt and have all the
Yeah.
groomsmen in kilts. But
I got
I've
I got married in my family starting. Yeah. Yeah.
see,
Love it. I break out my kilt for every St. Patrick's Day. Like I love it.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
We'll
But
have to
yeah,
wear a
so
kilt sometime.
so our Renaissance Festival, as I understand, it's a fairly big one. I'm not really into that culture a lot, but I do
Sure.
like to go. But yeah, they do themes. So like they have
Hmm.
themes like different weekends and yeah, it's really highly attended though. But it's a lot of fun.
I
And the
always
turkey,
enjoy what?
you go for the turkey leg. I mean,
Oh, of
let's just
course.
be honest.
Always. I go for the turkey leg and the madrigals. I'm a music like I enjoy old music. The madrigals
You
just
want to
take it for
dust out. You just got to dust out your flute, don't you?
me. It's a fife, not a flute. Please show some respect to the instrument. Show some
Wait,
respect
wait,
for the
wait,
love of
wait.
God.
Can you play the oh, what is that thing? Is it the mandolin? Is that what they played? What is that?
Yeah, I play the mandolin. I can play pretty much anything.
Yep, I sure do.
So I was very fortunate for whatever reason to be able to pick up any sort of stringed instrument. So I play the banjo. I have a banjo, mandolin, guitar, bass. I don't own a cello or a violin, but I can make my way through it.
Do you play the tin whistle? I don't know what that is. I just had that. Did you play the recorder when you were a kid? Oh, you froze again. Oh, that's even better. That looks phenomenal, by the way. Wait, he's really frozen. Joe, come back. Come back. The show's not over, Joe. It's not over. This is the part where you dread having to fill the space.
You're doing this all on your own and you can't even hear me.
No, I totally couldn't hear you.
Okay. Am I back now?
You're back now, yes.
Okay. Well, it's telling me it's bad net quality again. So
I had no idea.
Really? It's not like there was a
15-second
blip there.
There's nothing you going.
I'm not going to move from this position to prevent any future embarrassment because I don't need this. No.
That's phenomenal. Anyway, what was I asking you? Oh, the tin whistle. I don't even know where that came from, by the way.
Making fun of my fife abilities, I believe.
What else did they play back then? I'm stuck now.
They played
You played the harp?
I've never tried. I'm sure I could figure it out.
Really? You think you can just sit down in front of a harp and just figure out how to play it?
Well, first of all, I know you have to tilt the harp. So step one completed. Okay.
Well, I got the hardest part down, dude. I know how to.
And then I just need to hear it, and I can probably figure it out because I mean, no, I'm not trying to oversimplify music or musicians by any means, but it's tones.
we just boiled down like somebody's entire life of learning into. Oh, I can do it. I just pull it back.
I have a bachelor's degree in music composition and theory, so I kind of get it. You're just trying to make tones, and you can do it. And I'm not saying it's not difficult. I am not saying I would be some sort of a prodigy, but I could figure it out.
Could you have sung songs about Robin Hood?
Oh, without question.
Like you could have. Who was the guy that followed him around? I don't remember what his name was. Who was the musician part of Robin Hood?
Not Friar Tuck.
No, it's not Friar Tuck.
I know, but that's the first one that came to mind.
He was the drunk guy that drank honey mead all the time.
Oh my God, what's his name?
Was it Scarlet Robin? I don't remember.
I can't remember, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I could have probably done that, yes.
Better than Roger Miller did in the cartoon.
I don't know about that.
Don't you remember? The Disney Robin Hood?
Yes. Oh yeah.
It was Roger
Robin
Miller.
Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest.
Yeah,
what a day.
Yeah, that was an artist called Roger Miller.
There you go.
He was like the hobo, cowboy singer thing.
I did like that song.
He did like things like "You Can't Roast Kate in a Buffalo Herd" and. Oh, seriously? As a Weird Al fan, you don't know about Roger Miller?
I'm so sorry, I don't. So Weird Al has always showed me like he's my personal friend.
Yeah, when he came over, he's always just showed me his musical ability. Really,
through all the things I've watched and read about him,
I'm blinded by his amazing ability, and I've really not researched anyone else after that.
Dr. Demento. Spike Jones.
Dr. Demento show was one of my all-time favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to explain that to my family once.
How'd that go?
No, didn't understand. Didn't understand why it was the thing or why it was the coolest thing ever. So remember, like when these shows came on, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I was a kid, and I had a transistor radio. Okay. So for people who don't know what a transistor radio is, this is really bad. They used to make, when I was a kid, little radios, and transistor was what was inside that actually picked up the radio signal.
Yes.
And so when I was a kid, the big thing was the top 10 at 10, which was the countdown show that every top 40 station in the world always did, a hot 9 at 9 or a top 10 at 10 or top 5 at 5 or whatever, right? And so at 10 o'clock at night, I would sleep with I would put the radio under my pillow so I could listen to the top 10 songs, and everybody would think I was in bed asleep as a kid because that was past our bedtime. Well, then on weekend nights was the Dr. Demento show.
Okay.
And I just, and so like you got everything from Yoda from Weird Al to, just these bizarre songs that you would never hear anywhere else. And you either got it or you didn't get it. I totally got it. I love Dr. Demento. I love the sound of Dr. Demento. You can still go online and pull up some of the old shows, which are incredible to listen to. And there's songs that like you would never hear anywhere else because they were just so off the wall that nobody played them.
Right.
Oh, I love Dr. Demento.
Spike Jonze, I enjoyed. He was more like the 50s, but like I really enjoyed him too. But that's what Weird Al taught me was how to enjoy really weird music.
Well, now you need to go check out Roger Miller.
Hold on, I'm gonna actually. There it is. Okay, I have
Roger Miller was the minstrel in the Robin Hood Disney cartoon. He was the voice.
I will like him then because I love that song and I love the way he sounds.
Yeah, and so like he had a couple of really popular hits in the I want to say 60s, 70s ish era.
Okay.
And he's an artist that you would get if you got Weird Al, for example, because he was just a little off from what was out there at that day. And there are big time musicians who talk about Roger Miller as a musician and how great he was. They had a lot of respect inside the industry, but only a few songs you would ever have heard.
Did you know he won 14 Grammy Awards, one Tony Award, and an Academy of Country Music Award, 2 of them.
Yeah.
So he is,
Yeah.
He is apparently
he had his own TV show for a little while. Yeah. Definitely, if you're into Weird Al, that's definitely an artist that you should check out.
Done. I'm adding that to my list. Okay, this is going to be one of the last things I ask you about because it's to do with music and kind of weird music.
Okay.
What, yay or nay? Since people already hate us since we've.
We're just going to burn the whole house down.
Let's just bring the whole thing down.
That south wall isn't coming down. Let's go ahead and bring that one down too.
Tom Waits.
What about Tom Waits?
What are your thoughts and opinions?
I have none.
None. Okay.
Yeah, you could hit me over the head with a Tom Waits song and I couldn't tell you what it was.
Interesting. So allow me to explain my experience with Tom Waits. It was 2007. I was taking a train trip from Chicago to Boston to visit a friend because I was too stupid to buy a flight and I wanted to get the experience of traveling the country like every moronic 20-whatever-year-old.
By the way, you do that once and you never do that again.
Yep.
It is the worst travel experience. I don't know how people do it. I don't know why they would do it. It was horrible when I did it one time.
It was fun for the first 8 hours.
Oh no.
And then it got progressively worse. Here's why. So it was supposed to be a 22-hour train ride.
Yep.
Okay, fine. We can sleep. We can do all that stuff. Like, fine. What did I just say? Like 8, 10, somewhere in there. We're traveling through the middle of nowhere, Indiana, Ohio, somewhere. And
so you're saying where I live is the middle of nowhere. That's awesome.
Well, not exactly where you live, but the state general.
Ohio.
There is clearly
where you live.
There's clearly a burning, like something is glowing, right? Off through the
building or across.
It is a barn, in fact,
that
is fully engulfed in flames with the embers floating by. So there's a conductor who is taking a little rest in front of me. He's got his radio on, and I hear the person in the front of the train driving the train's like, we got a barn burning about 100 feet from the tracks. Should we just plow through it? And I was like, I screamed at the guy. I'm like, no, we should not do that. We didn't. We sat there for 5 hours, and this 22-hour trip took about, I'm guessing, 27, 28 maybe. And it was a very long thing. But anyways, throughout that time, I took a nap. A friend of mine said, here, listen to this music. I think you'll enjoy it. It's Tom Waits. I fell asleep. Have you heard Tom Waits music?
Yes.
It gave me the weirdest dreams of my life. I imagined I was swimming in a sea and was eaten by a giant whale, and then an elephant came out. It was the weirdest dreams I've ever had. But it gave me a new appreciation for his music, and I love the man. Like, his music is fantastic. It's like Weird Al, but more poetic, I guess. I don't know. He's
Yeah.
like a gypsy poet, I guess
Right.
is the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, well, beatnik, right? That's
Yes.
they always
Yes.
refer to him as a beatnik
Yep.
composer or a beatnik artist, but I know him way better as an actor than I do as a musician.
Yes.
Um, like Buster Scruggs come to mind, right? The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, like he's phenomenal in that. I'm a great actor, I think, but as a musician, like I would have to spend a lot more time because I can tell you I've only heard just a few things. It's not something that I have spent any time with that, and especially not dreaming about.
Well, I didn't dream, but it happened during a dream, and it was a fever dream, if anything. And it's with him, it's you either love him or hate him. I don't
Right.
know anybody who's like, oh, I'm okay with Tom Waits. You either absolutely love his dark, brooding voice and like
Sure.
the lyrics, or you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I just wanted to see where you stood on that to further
Yeah.
divide you and the public watching.
The
Just
musical
the
community is like,
wedge,
who's this
putting
former
in the
radio
wedge.
guy who doesn't like anything? And he's like, go back to your
Dylan
pop music.
sucks. Hendrix,
I didn't
friggin'
say.
joke.
No, I love Jimi Hendrix. Are you
No,
kidding?
Jimi Hendrix sucks.
Love Jimi Hendrix. I love Jimi Hendrix when people are like, why do you like Jimi Hendrix? I'm like, well, I think it's kind of been a revival now. People kind of figured it out. But yeah, there was a time people were like, why would you like this? Are you kidding me? Jimi Hendrix is amazing stuff. Yeah. Well, I think, music comes in cycles, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And every generation thinks they invented a boy band, right? So every teenage girl, whatever that boy band is or that icon of their generation, they think that the first to ever have that pop music experience, right? And there's a great I don't remember who the guy is in who came up with this theory, but there is this cyclical nature of music theory where every 10 years the music becomes centered to where moms and daughters can listen to top 40 music together, and then through that 10-year cycle it breaks off, and that's when top 40 radio is at its best, is when mom and daughter can listen together, right?
Absolutely.
You get the teen girl and you get the mom, and you have that age group expansion, right? And then moms always want to relive their Backstreet Boys, right? Or their
Mhm.
NKOTB, or like that would be New Kids on the Block, in case you didn't know.
For those who are
You had
unaware,
the
I
look
know.
of like,
Me,
oh,
I
okay,
know.
the look like what? Um, or it goes all the way back to the Beatles, let's be honest, and probably even before that, right? So there's this whole idea that you could chart out music, and if you start at like 1940 or even 1950, you can see how top 40 radio cycles, right? And then that cycle comes back and you hit that 60, and then suddenly the music comes back to center again. And then as the music goes through a 10-year cycle, you start to try and find fringes, right? Because if you look at when rap comes in, or you look at when rock comes in to top 40 music, those are looking for things to expand the format, right? And this is
Right.
before the fractured format. So you didn't have like a one station that just plays rhythmic records and one station that just plays pop records, or one station that just plays rock. Like that, where those fractured formats came because people were trying to battle, what do we do with rap music?
Mhm.
Um, and I think you look at like when rap music comes in, you start to find formats. Like I remember working at stations where they said, all the music you love and no rap. Like that became like this moniker, right? And then we fractured into the adult contemporary formats off of top 40, where they would play the Justin Timberlakes of the world, but they sure as heck didn't want to play the NWA records, or
Right.
whatever those harsh ones were, and then suddenly Will Smith came along and no one knew what to do with a Will Smith record. It was a pop record, it was a rap record, right?
Right.
And then it mainstream, and then suddenly rap was in your pop records, right? Suddenly Ludacris was the guest on everybody's record.
Mhm.
Ja Rule was the guest on everybody's
Right.
record, and then there's this artist that comes through and just blows everybody away, by the name of Eminem,
Eminem.
and
Yeah, I knew it. Yep.
no one knows what to do with a white rapper,
Right.
because that really hadn't happened, and that wasn't not to a level of popularity like that,
Right.
right? And he took and revolutionized in a lot of ways the way rap sounded and the way that rap felt, and the things you could or could not talk about like were elevated, right?
Mhm.
And so like that whole cyclical nature of music always comes through, and I think it holds true with things like Weird Al. You get, or and that's an example, right? But anybody that is on the fringe of what people think is normal, right?
Right.
And you get that, oh, I don't get it. and then they go away from it, and then somebody discovers it, and it's like they discover it again, right? And people are
Right.
like, oh, I remember that, right? And then suddenly it becomes nostalgia, and it's still like, oh, I don't get it, but I remember it being really cool. And now somebody else is into it, so I want to align to that, right? And so that cyclical nature comes through, and I think it like Waits would be an example of that, right? Like there are people like 5 years from now who think they're the first people to hear that music and get it. It's always about getting.
Right. You always got to get it.
Right. Either you get it or you don't get it, right? And then your job, like when I was in radio, my job was to either get it or don't get it.
Right.
Right. My job was to decide what we got and what we put on the radio, and then talk over it and make people really mad because they're trying to record their favorite song, and you had me, talking over the top of it. And that was by design, so you'd have to go buy the record if you wanted the actual clean copy. Like that's why disc jockeys existed, right? And they were the hype between the songs. But yeah, there's this whole like might have been Guy Zapolian, might be the guy's name, who literally sat down and charted it out. And it's a just phenomenal look at music and how music works. And if that's the case, we're at the top end of a cycle, and we have to go 9 more years for it to come back around. So the idea is to expect in the next 5 years, top 40 music is not going to be very good.
Right.
Or it's going to be fractured again, and there'll be things that you really don't like Nirvana, right? They were one of those bands that came across into that genre, and people either got or didn't get.
Right.
Stone Temple Pilots is a band that people either got or didn't get, right? Blind Melon, those types of bands that people are like, not my thing, and then they leave the format or go someplace else looking for whatever it is that they want. But that's when radio was radio, and now radio is not radio.
Definitely.
And that's a whole nother 2 hours.
We have something to look forward to next week then.
Right. If you want to really go to sleep fast, let's do a 2-hour radio discussion.
That's fantastic.
I'll tell you all the secrets. I'll tell you about all the people you listen to that aren't in your town.
That you literally have no knowledge of, but
you actually will never see at a live radio event, because I don't even know if they do those anymore, but they don't live there. So.
All right.
You're like, what happened?
What? It was intro. I mean, it's funny because, when the most recent Weird Al concert I went to, because I can apply to that, in 2019, I looked around. It was all people my age.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
30s and 40s. And they all had their kids with them, right? Because they're like, hey, here's what I loved when I was a kid. That's just how it is. And that's going to keep going as long as he's still around. And I mean, he's been around since 82, I think. And he's never really had that big of a dip in his career. He's been going since the early 80s.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference too, right? Where we've gotten to with technology and your ability to access, right? So if you think about it, when my parents were kids, right, and they were listening to the music they listened to in the 50s, you only had so much access to that, right? And you didn't have a mass outlet for those songs. Once those songs went away, if you didn't buy the record, for example, there was no way to listen to it again. That those stations that were then oldie stations, any format of any they're going to play what gets them the most ratings. And so an oldie station is only going to play the hit records that you remember, that you like, that you have nostalgia to, that you want to listen to over and over again. There's nothing wrong with that. But those other records go away. There are so many songs that got played on the radio that you'll never hear again.
Right.
And different now, you can go out and you can actually go, hey, I loved this record, right? So I think of, the band The Kinks. You remember the song Come Dancing?
Yes.
Okay. I loved that record when I was a kid. And I'm old. I call them records, and old radio guys do. They were records when we played them.
No, I get it, yeah.
But that song to me is just one of the songs I love. It's a fun song. It's a song that I remember from when I was younger. And so that's a song that, I have no access to. It would be that, oh, you remember that song? You remember that Come Dancing song? And you know how it goes in your head. And that'd be it. And then people would be like, no, I don't remember that song, right? There's no access to it. Today, the difference is there's access. You can go pull up that song and play it for your kids. And now if your kids go, oh, that's cool, you've just revitalized that record.
Yep. And
that's a whole different thing. And so it's like that with an artist that has character like Weird Al, where, like we talked about, the movie, right? UHF.
UHF, yeah.
You know, like that's something you can show your kids. When
Mhm.
I was a kid and my parents were like, oh, there was this, movie, you
It
couldn't
was
go
done.
find
You
it. It
couldn't
was just
figure
like,
it
oh,
out.
okay,
Yeah.
whatever. Like I don't get it because I never got it, right? And so I think that's what's interesting to me too, is like I always talk about why is Elvis so popular today,
Hmm.
right? He hasn't made a song in a long time, whether you
Yeah.
think he's dead or not, right? Maybe
Right.
he's still alive and living in Michigan where the sightings are all the time of Elvis or whatever.
Right.
But, why would kids today want to go back and listen to Hound Dog
Hmm.
or Jailhouse Rock or Blue Hawaii,
Hmm.
right? And it's that access that you have from your parents because they completely bring that into your life, and that's what you learn is, and it just continues to build and build. The Beatles are the same way. All the big ones are the same way. I
Right.
think Madonna and Michael Jackson and Prince will all be that too, right?
Mhm.
Because the holy trinity of the 80s, right? That was the three that developed a format and drove an entire industry. So
Right.
I think that cyclical nature comes into play again because people keep rediscovering something because there's access to it that didn't have access before. And I think that's what's carried on some of this and will carry it forward continually, right? I think
Hmm.
it will only continue to build and build and build. Um, but I think that it's interesting that, but you're dead right. I mean, it's always those older artists you see people reliving, right? Or remembering
Right.
and then it's their kids and then their kids go, "Oh, I really like that," and
Yep.
then they'll continue down the road,
Just
right?
keep it
So,
going. Well, and my parents did that with me with Billy Joel, for instance. Like my
yeah,
mom had the Turnstiles CD,
yeah,
and we would play it all the time. Like every Friday night, we would listen to Billy Joel, and I always wanted to hear that one. And
yeah.
I love, like, I'm one of the biggest Billy Joel fans. I love him. Went to a whole bunch of his concerts with my parents. Like it's one of the things we always did together. And when I was younger, I turned a lot of my friends onto it. And to this
Sure.
day, like we've gone to Billy Joel concerts together. And to your point, when's the last time Billy Joel has written a new song? Like obviously it's not the same as Elvis, but
Right, right.
like I think early '90s was the last time he put a new
Sure,
record out. He
sure.
just does his stadium tours and he plays every classic. And
Yep.
I'll be damned if there aren't people as young as 13 and as old as like 75 there just loving the classics of it. So
All singing Piano Man, but none of them singing songs from his best album ever.
what's his best album ever?
Songs in the Attic.
No.
Yes.
Turnstiles. I
No.
will fight you to the day I die on this. There's not a bad song on Turnstiles ever. Like name one bad song.
Oh, I don't disagree with you on that,
Hold
but
on.
it's not the best album.
Which album did you say?
You don't even know it.
No, well, I just didn't.
Song,
I don't remember.
Songs in the Attic.
Okay,
Oh,
hold on.
by
I want to
far.
see. I just want to see what I'm. Uh, whoa.
You're wooing me now.
Wait.
Yes. It's a live album.
Okay. Okay. See now here we're all right. We're talking kind of the same language a little bit.
Summer Highland
Yeah.
Falls, Say
So
Goodbye to Hollywood,
what?
Captain Jack, Ballad of Billy the Kid is a rocker. Love
So
that song.
several of these are off of the Turnstiles album. Miami 2017, by the way, one
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
underrated
Phenomenal record.
songs. Summer Highland Falls is my favorite Billy Joel song of all time.
Yep.
Piano Man doesn't have crap on it. It's outstanding. Like I will fight people who disagree with me on any of this. Come at me, please. Um,
Throwing the gauntlet down. I'm burning
I
down the
will.
house, and Joe's
Oh,
like,
I
"Hey,
will.
by the way, I'm gonna make all the Billy Joel fans mad at me too."
If you're a real Billy Joel fan, you agree that Summer Highland Falls is the best song the man has ever written. It's
It's a phenomenal record.
it's
I'm
tough.
just telling you. That album,
Yeah.
I don't know why it is, but I mean, because Billy Joel obviously during my lifetime has been a huge artist. Um, Literally, that album to me is the greatest album. It's a live album. It's got all that live energy.
Hmm.
Um, but those songs in that order just make sense.
I can see that 100%. I absolutely agree with you. Like it is a good album. Like it
It's sad too because when you think of these old albums, right? Those songs were in order for a reason.
yeah.
And I don't know that people go that deep into music anymore. And maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe it's just the old guy in me, right?
Mhm.
But it used to be like when you got a record, right, an album, you wanted to listen to the album track by track in order
Right.
because that was the way that they were
It was
intended
meant
to
to be.
be.
Yep.
And a lot of times they told a story in order,
Mhm.
right? And I don't know enough albums to tell you the ones to go check out for that. But I mean, like, there's a reason why, Dark Side of the Moon is in that order, right? For
Mhm.
example, I think of that album. There's a reason why those songs are in that order. Um, I don't know that music's done that way anymore.
I
I don't,
agree.
because artists don't tell that if they do, artists don't tell their story anymore of why. I think now it's just 14 songs on an album, 12 songs on an album, 14 if you're lucky, I guess.
Yep.
Sometimes 8 or 10, right? And I don't know if they tell a story anymore. And maybe I'm completely off base. I'm just wondering if that is that process anymore.
Let me tell you why I can't give you a real answer to that. So ever since the iPod, I can honestly tell you I've never listened to an album start to finish the way
Yeah.
it was meant to. I've skipped. So think about it. When it was cassettes, it
Yes.
was too much trouble to go from one to two.
Oh,
Like you'd
yeah.
skip it, you'd go back. CDs were a little bit better, like easier to do, but still, it was just still a pain in the butt to have to do that. But once the iPod came out, I was able to skip and be like, oh, don't like that song. Next one. Oh, I like this song. Let's listen to it. Oh, I don't like, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't
Right.
be forced to listen from 1 to 8, 10, 12,
Right.
whatever it
Right.
is.
You want to
So
hear when radio stations really tried to be hip and really overdid themselves?
well,
When CDs came out and they came up with the liner that said less talking, more tracking. And it was like no one talked about tracks. Like kids didn't go, "Hey, did you hear that track?"
the track there.
Like
No,
that was when they really outdid themselves to try and be hip, and it just absolutely killed me all the time. Less talking, more tracking.
that's hilarious.
We're good.
That's what I got. I'm spent here.
And I think that's it.
I think that's what we got. I think we talked about everything under the sun.
Yes.
We talked about Antarctica, Rubik's cubes, Weird Al, music, uh, everything. Alligators and manatees.
And do you still want your MTV?
Yes. I did not know that was actually Sting singing that.
And now we have to go for another hour.
I'm just saying, So here's what I'm going to say to end this.
Yes.
I love Dire Straits.
Yes.
Never realized that was Sting singing that. I never knew that.
It's the Dino and Joe Show.
Hard cut.